2020 is coming to an end, and boy was it a hell of a year. So much stuff has struck mankind in the face like some sort of bizarro endgame simulation, and so many parts of our lives have been flipped on their heads, yet here we are, still alive and kicking. As far as Merry Bites goes, the first half of the year was, in my eyes, the most successful the channel has ever been. The analytics were positive, and I produced a lot of content at a decent pace. The second half, not so much. The good news is that the second cross-race video that was a pain to work on has been pretty successful, and is now alternating with Gold 97 and Dragon Quest Monsters for the spot of top daily views. I'm surprised it's doing so well given that it's about an update rather than an entire game. In fact, it has 4 or 5 times the number of views of the first one. Life is weird. The Serious Sam Encounters video started out slow, but some community members noticed it and it spiked my analytics for a couple of weeks. It was one of the hardest videos I've worked on since I started the channel, but I like how it ended up, and I received some very kind comments from members of the community. It's moments like these that make it all worth it. As the year progressed, everything slowed down. The videos, the analytics, and even real life. The weekly averages are still higher than ever. I started the year getting between 500 and 700 views every week, but the average grew over time, and starting with May, every single week scored at least 1,000 views. I started the year with around 300 subscribers, but I've since penetrated the 750 subscriber goal I set for myself, and am approaching 3 times the number I started with. Welcome to the channel, everyone. I'm still doing great compared to last year, it's just that the growth stopped growing. But it shouldn't be a surprise, since there's been a content drought these last months. And this video isn't going to be the last one of 2020, because I'm working on a really long one that's taking way longer than I expected to finish. And then I still have to render it and wait for YouTube to process it. If you want to know the reason for this drought, it's because of October, Christmas, and McDonald's. You see, in late September I found a job, for about a month and a half. A McDonald's restaurant opened up over here and I was hired. After years of getting ghosted and led by fake promises like a donkey getting baited by a carrot, I was surprised at how professional and effective the recruitment process was. I guess being a soulless megacorporation comes with some benefits. One day was the first interview with a short questionnaire and about 25 minutes of discussion with the general manager. Late at night, they asked for another meeting the following day, and late that night again, they summoned me to deliver some documents and to try out my uniform. It was nice how they laid out the actual important bits like salary, training, schedules and responsibilities without any fuss, whereas every other employer I've interacted with seemed to want to dodge everything that job chasers really want to know. Seriously, why do you want to know about my free time or my dreams and aspirations? Just tell me what to do and give me my greens at the end of the month. But with how fast it was going, I knew already that something was going to go wrong. After one day of corporate propaganda and 2 days of standing around listening to a crew trainer give us a rundown of the kitchen, they threw our inexperienced asses into the deep end on opening day, while simultaneously chastising us for not having already memorized how to make 30 different burgers and how everything works and where everything goes. It's easy to make fun of fast food workers and assume that all they do is flip burgers all day, but I've done physically intensive jobs that left me less exhausted than a McDonald's kitchen. And that's the worst part. It's not just physically tiring, it's physically and mentally exhausting. Working at a fast food joint is hard, but not because of the work itself. Assembling burgers and cleaning tools is repetitive, but the methods are simple. It's more about the people you have to deal with, the general atmosphere, and the constant pressure to do things faster without sacrificing quality. Friendly advice: don't make a habit of eating at McDonald's. A few burgers, like the CBO, do genuinely taste amazing, but the kitchen staff is incentivized to cut as many corners as they can to keep waiting times at unreasonably low levels. Low-volume meats like the fish fillet sit in the heating cabinets for hours until they're needed, and nothing is ever thrown out even though you're supposed to do so after 20 minutes. You know that overused word, toxic? Yeah, toxic is exactly how I would describe working there. You could feel how much some of the staff hated being there, and that negativity spread around. It was miserable. Some of the crew trainers seemed more interested in just telling people that they're doing something wrong than to actually teach people how to do their job. One would tell me that this thing is done this way, then another would tell me I'm doing it wrong and that it's this way. And then another would come along and also tell me that I'm doing it wrong and that it's this other way. There were a few other episodes, like when one of them manhandled a sack of burger patties, then handed it to me, then the sack opened on the bottom and the patties flooded the floor. And of course the fault was all dumped on me. On the week right before quitting, the lady who handles schedules also decided to change the number of hours I worked on the day right before the new week started, even though the contract very clearly stated that we both had to agree to change it. My parents and I discussed the situation and came to the conclusion that the wacky shifts, the gasoline spent driving to work every day, and the shoddy salary I was getting just wasn't worth it. So I quit. And even that took a week to settle. I'm sure that your experience will vary from one restaurant to another. There are countless McDonald's joints all over the world, staffed by different people with different philosophies. But this one? No thanks. But enough about my life. Let's talk about everyone's life instead. Because the way things are going, just chilling at home might not be such a bad idea. The pandemic started getting worse again, with everyone opening things up. Around September, mainland Portugal went from having around 200 to 300 daily cases to scoring double or triple of that. This shouldn't be a surprise, since that's the same time that schools went back to presential classes. And then October arrived and cases exceeded 1,000. And then the week after it crossed 2,000. And then 3,000 next week, and 4,000 after that, and 5,000, and 6,000, and 7,000, and then peaked at 8,300 or so. In the first half of the year, the Azores had about 150 cases. Since then, it grew over 10 times that. Portugal was doing pretty well in the first half, but then the country opened up and things went downhill. You can argue that the reason we have so many cases now is just because the tests are faster and more efficient now. But if that's the case, then maybe we had as many cases in the first half of the year too. They simply weren't tested. The moment I realized that it just got real was when we received the news that some infections were confirmed at the school my sister's daughter goes to. This was announced 2 days after they visited us. Some weeks later, my father was bedridden for a few days because he was feeling extremely cold, and of course we had no choice but to drive him to the hospital. Thankfully, the scare was a false alarm, but the situation is getting ugly, and at their age, my parents are very vulnerable. When the pandemic started, I wondered if this was going to last a few months until science and medicine found a solution, or if it was something that we would have to live with for several years. Well, vaccines are coming along, but I'm a bit skeptical at how strangely fast they're being developed and deployed. I'm not against vaccines, but I don't think you can blame me for being skeptical of an experimental unproven product. Regardless, all of this stuff made me think about myself, my life, and my future. What I really want to do with my life, what I have achieved until now, and the things I want to achieve in the future. I've spent so much of my life doing what others wanted me to do, rather than what I wanted to do. Like, hey, you're good at computers, so you should do this course. That is just like the one you did 10 years ago. Or you should apply for this job, even though you're just going to get ghosted. I'm not a competent person. I'm clumsy, I'm slow, and I take a while to understand new things. But I have always tried to do what the voices of authority asked of me, and I worked my balls off on studies that ultimately haven't done much for me. Not the programming course I took 10 years ago, and certainly not the receptionist course from last year that effectively killed my channel for 6 months. From an early age, society taught me that I should work hard on my studies so I can get good grades and find a good job, but I haven't found that good job after several years. I'm not trying to be an arrogant prick, and I'm 100% willing to accept that I am the problem. But seeing classmates who only did the bare minimum in school being able to find jobs weeks after graduation while I couldn't find any for a year just made me bitter as balls about the whole job hunting thing. So what does all this have to do with YouTube? Well, directly, not that much actually. I am fairly comfortable sitting on my ass all day playing video games and trying to write scripts, but the realistic part of me is getting a bit scared about how it's been over 3 years since I started Merry Bytes. That's a very long time on the internet. It's more than enough time for some of the things I said in older videos to have become outdated, and for me to realize that I made some mistakes in my scripts. And maybe it's more than enough time to achieve the status of successful on YouTube, by which I mean a couple thousand subscribers and becoming an established channel, which I still haven't reached. The 1,000 subscriber milestone is kind of a big deal for small YouTubers. Not only is it a nice rounded number, but it's also the main requirement for applying to the YouTube Partner Program. The main advantage of getting accepted is that you can monetize your videos, but it's also the first step into being truly successful on YouTube, and that's why it's a big deal for me. I've invested a lot of time into the channel, and once I reach 1,000 subscribers, I can tell myself that I'm justified in doing so. It legitimizes my choice. And yes, if I get accepted into the partner program, I'm probably going to turn on monetization. I'd just like to make that clear now. I don't expect to make a living wage out of it or anything, but if it's something I can grow and earn something on the side, then I want to try it. And after being dragged around everywhere on the job market, I'm just about ready to tell it to piss right off. And yes, I am also aware of the irony here after quitting a job by my own volition. I'm not going to change the kind of content that I make. I'm still going to cover all kinds of games. I'm still going to do some shorter videos, and I'm still going to do some unnecessarily long videos that inevitably take longer than I expect, and the channel will end up with several weeks of no new content. And no, I'm not going to start telling you to smash that like button every video. I'm sure that in a parallel universe there is a hyper clickbait version of myself that is much more successful, but I'd like to think that I still have a modicum of self-awareness. But words are cheap, and I don't even know where I'll be by the time I reach 1,000 subscribers. I'm sorry that this turned out to be such a negative retrospective, especially after how excited and optimistic I was in the first half of the year. I guess 2020 eventually hits us all in the face at one point, and maybe I just needed Ronald to kick me in the balls for me to wake up. But it's not like I've been down in the dumpster all day every day. Between all the things that happened this year, there have been plenty of good times. Some parts of my life may have made me feel miserable, but others made me happy. It's in the darkest places that light shines the brightest. Or something. I have been playing a lot of fun video games these past months. Plus, one of the games I'll cover soon just got a translation too, which makes covering it so much easier, wink wink nudge nudge. And of course, Merry Industries has grown a lot. I feel more confident in my own skills, and I'm excited to show you some videos I've been working on for next year. Besides that, I don't have any future plans in particular. I'm just going to keep making videos about whatever I feel like. I have some unfinished business that I didn't get to this year, so hopefully that's going to be done in 2021. I'm sure I'll get to that this year. I have been continuing to forge my own style and workflow, getting more efficient at what I do, day by day, bit by bit. I have found a style for my thumbnails that I like, so while they're still a mess, hopefully they're a more consistent mess now. I'm also brainstorming some small aesthetic changes to some of my backgrounds, but I haven't quite decided on anything yet. The avatar isn't going anywhere though, you're not getting rid of my beautiful popcorn cheeks that easily. Originally, I thought about spending some of the cash from Ronald's Funhouse to upgrade my storage, and maybe even splurge on a 5900X to get all that juicy single and multi-thread performance. But real life happened, so that's off the table. And besides, everything's either out of stock or horribly overpriced. Either way, for now I'm just going to finish that last video, and then enjoy the rest of the holidays. Once again, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for watching my videos. I don't know what 2021 will bring. Honestly, I don't even know if I'll be in this house I've lived in for most of my life. But whatever happens, let's do our best to make 2021 shine brighter than 2020. Merry Christmas, everyone!